Hi, welcome, and we're here to interview Dan Holme, talk about some new stuff that's coming in Viva. And so, Dan, I don't know if you just want to get cut straight to this chase.
Sure. But first of all, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's great to be part of Techie Gurus.
So let's talk a little bit about Viva and where it's headed. So I know Viva Engage is now a new thing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what that is and what it means for some people who are maybe already using some of those products and platforms.
Sure. So Viva Engage is new, but it's not. As many of you might know, we're migrating Yammer to Viva Engage. No actual migration necessary. It's just a rebrand exercise. And we brought Yammer into the Viva family as Viva Engage in Teams first. We then rebranded the mobile application in March. In June, we'll be rebranding the web, SharePoint, and embed experiences. So we will be fully part of the Viva family in June. And even though Viva Engage is new, it is serving many of the same roles that customers have leveraged Yammer for decades. So connecting people across the organization, across business silos, across working groups, to achieve common objectives, whether those are building community and fostering inclusion, sharing knowledge and experience, or just communicating and engaging at scale across an organization.
Yeah, okay, so all these organizations now have teams, and they have Viva Engage, and they maybe are doing the same thing. So maybe talk a little bit about the difference between channels and communities. When would you use what?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. It's one we get all the time, actually. If you think about Microsoft Teams, it really is two things. It is a hub where all the other applications come in to help you get your work done. So Teams has its own capabilities like chats and channels and meetings, but files come from SharePoint, video comes from Stream, and in our case, connecting and engaging across the organization comes from Viva Engage. So Teams is a hub, and then Teams does have its own superpowers of helping power collaboration with chats, channels, and meetings. And people often have a question about sort of when do I use a channel, when do I use a community?
Right.
There are a couple of ways to think about it. One is to understand the scenario and product strategy of each product. So channels, meetings, chats are really about a group of people working together to get something done. It's collaboration. Bring all the apps, all the files, all the information, and all the conversation together in one place. And generally, those people are people who know each other at least reasonably well. They're well enough to be on the same team.
Working together day to day.
Exactly. Communities are really about connecting across teams, because your collaborative team probably doesn't have all the answers.
Right.
There's other teams that have answers or ideas or information that makes your team's work successful.
Right.
And then there's also scenarios that span teams like culture, employee resource groups, communications. So one way to think about it is with the scenarios. The other, the phrase I like to use is that in a channel or chat, the conversation is about the objective. You're talking about what you're doing together. Whereas in a community, conversation is the objective. The point is to have people talking to each other who normally wouldn't talk to each other.
Nice.
So that they can share knowledge, come up with new ideas. That's where innovation happens. So that's a second way to think about it. And the third is, from a technical perspective, channels are built on instant messaging. And it's built from the single message up to a bigger group. And that leads to challenges at scale. Teams, chats, and meetings, for example, can't take more than 1,000 people.
Absolutely.
A community started with the whole organization and went down to groups. So from a technical platform perspective, Viva Engage is better suited for anything large scale, anything where there are going to be conversations that there's no way to expect a single user to follow all the conversations in Viva Engage. So it has AI to help surface the most valuable things.
Nice.
Whereas in a channel, you're expected to know everything that's going on and you're expected to respond quickly.
Right.
So the platforms are actually technically built different as well.
So you're saying like an HR benefits announcement could go out through a
Viva
community.
Engage. Yep.
And maybe, for example, if somebody was working in the HR department behind the scenes, they might work in a team in a channel.
That's a perfect example. They go hand in hand. So your collaborative team, like your HR team, will certainly be working in a team or channel, but they then need to reach the rest of the organization,
Exactly.
which they can do through Viva Engage. And the example you use is an awesome one. I like to call it a front door to your team. Like your team works here in a channel, but you've got this front door to engage the rest of the organization.
Love it.
And in the end, it used to be like, should I use Teams or should I use Yammer? now literally Viva Engage is in teams. So it's not an either or, it's an and.
That's great. That's great. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, like in terms of maybe how leaders can get benefit out of this, or any other comments you'd like to make about that?
Yeah, great question. So as part of our introduction of Viva Engage, we built a number of features for leaders and communicators that allow leaders to reach a defined audience or audiences in an organization and engage them over a period of time with announcements, with Ask Me Anything events, with social campaigns, so that they can create a better connection between the leader and their employee base. And leaders also then can feel more connected with their leaders, know what's top of mind, and engage with those leaders to share their ideas and input.
That's super exciting. I'm so glad you were here to join us and talk about this. Thanks for listening, and go Techie Gurus.